Our speaker is going to be Doreen McMorran, and she is the co-founder and the Chief Operating Officer of Ovation Science Incorporated. This is a science-based topical and transdermal product development company with Invisicare, and this is a patented drug delivery technology backed by over 20 years of research and development. Ovation sells and licenses its highly effective health and wellness products globally, including topical and transdermal cannabis products, as well as DermSafe, a unique CHG hand sanitizer without alcohol that assists in the battle against the COVID-19 virus. Ms. McMorran has over 25 years of experience in the medical and pharmaceutical industry, specifically in the areas of strategic planning, sales, and marketing of dermatology products. Prior to her role as Vice President of Business Development for Skin Visible Pharmaceuticals, she spent 6 years marketing and selling to international dermatology and skincare-focused companies, as well as providing medical education, both traditional and online, for physicians and consumers about dermatology conditions, products, and treatments. Ms. McMorran, who holds a Bachelor of Commerce honors degree, spent 6 years in the pharmaceutical industry with Astra Pharma. Additionally, she has held senior management level positions with a number of healthcare companies focusing on business development, sales, marketing, and operations. And I'm very excited to hear today, in a brief time, her experience with cannabis and where she thinks this is all going to be going in Canada. We haven't heard too much recently, so nice to get an update. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting us here today. Ian and Chuck, it's always great to come to Derm Update, and it's a very different time, so it's been a bit of a challenge for us to actually get here, but it's certainly been worth it. So for those of you that participated last year, we gave you a little bit of an update on topical cannabis and how it's, let me take this off, and how it actually is coming into Canada, and the rules have been constantly changing. And so today, I want to give you a little bit of background of what has changed and what has not changed, and talk about particularly topical cannabis. Oh, very slow. So the key thing to remember, and just as an overview, is there's really two ingredients that are used in topical cannabis products, and actually all cannabis products, and that is CBD and THC. THC obviously is the psychoactive part of a marijuana plant, and that is being used more and more even in topical products, but it's one, of course, we all know about from marijuana. And then CBD, which actually interacts with the CB2 receptors, so obviously the skin, that is more common, and particularly in the United States, where both hemp and marijuana can generate the CBD. It's very interesting to know, though, in Canada, that the Cannabis Act actually treats both of those ingredients as the same. So they are both regulated under the same regulations. One of the things that I always like to talk about, though, is that you will find that there are topical products that try to, for lack of a better way to describe it, ride the CBD or cannabis wave and talk about having hemp. In hemp seed oil actually has no cannabinoids. It has nothing to do with the Cannabis Act. It's not regulated. It is just like a regular antioxidant oil, like coconut oil or anything else. So it's very important to know that if you have patients that are asking you about a topical product that says it has hemp, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's cannabis. So what's happened in Canada with the regulations? So in 2018, in the fall, Canada was one of the first developed country to legalize cannabis for adult use. And dried flower, cannabis oil, and sublingual sprays were actually part of that legalization. A year later, they added edibles, topicals, and vapes, and that's referred to as Cannabis 2.0. As I mentioned in my first slide, CBD is actually regulated the same way as THC in Canada, and there was quite a bit of expectation that this would change and allow CBD products to actually be distributed differently than the THC products. That, however, didn't happen kind of COVID happened and other things, I guess. And so there actually have been no changes to the Act to allow for any of these auxiliary products to have sort of less regulation. You can see these, the chart here is different provinces. Topicals are still a very, very small part of what's being sold, and I'll explain why in a minute. But as you can see, slowly but surely, these auxiliary products are actually coming into the market in Canada. So maybe CBD was just a fad. Well, in Google searches have actually increased 500% for CBD since 2017, sorry. And there's 6.4 million searches for CBD a month on Google. So patients are self-educating themselves about CBD and continue to actually look for answers about how CBD can be used. And the ones that are actually using it, and these numbers more refer to the US, where CBD is not regulated because it's coming from hemp and it can be sold retail. But a regular CBD user will actually spend $20 to $80 a month, and actually some spend as much as $160 a month. We have cannabis products in Nevada being sold, and they range up to $90 for a 2-ounce jar. Consumers are also showing that they're actually starting to prefer these other routes versus smoking. So edibles, infused coffee, juices, even other beverages, and topicals are becoming more and more popular. So what does that all mean? Is that the CBD continues to shift on a global scale, being continually popular as more and more regulations are relaxed, and as more research also comes out showing that topical cannabis can actually be very beneficial for patients. So what about in Canada? It's interesting, when I was actually searching, I could find very few topical products that actually have come out. And cannabis topically can be a lotion, a balm, a roll-on, in oils. They can have CBD, THC, or a combination of them. And there's different purposes. So main one, or at least the main ones that we see in the US, is actually for pain and wellness, anxiety, lubricants. But I'm seeing more and more use for cosmetics and dermatological conditions. I actually saw CBD mascara the other day, which I'm not really sure what the benefit is, but there it is. And so, of course, because CBD interacts with the skin and it doesn't get you high, and it's deregulated in the United States, that is what the thought will be also for Canada. But because that did not change, we have seen very few topicals come out. There's actually about 3 brands that I could find that have launched in Canada. And you can see by that picture, those are topical products. So you can see there's no branding, there's no claims, there's no nothing. And so patients are getting their information, quite honestly, from the internet, and may be coming into your offices asking you about how to actually use these products. These ones happen to be THC. Nope. THC only products. So again, because THC comes from the marijuana plant and is regulated in Canada the same way as CBD, it's actually seems to be the choice in Canada. But you can see that CBD market it continues to grow. $1.7 billion is projected by 2025 for the global CBD skincare market. And according to a study by Deloitte, topical cannabis in Canada should reach $174 million in 2020. So there's more and more topicals coming out, and some things are actually changing or helping that along. So cannabis in the pandemic. So you would think that perhaps because stores are shut down, dispensaries were shut down in the US, stores in Canada, that things would have flattened out. But in actual fact, cannabis has really surged during the pandemic. And you can see those 3 years, those are actually in Canadian dollars, millions of Canadian dollars per month, and the sales just continue to rise each year. And the reason why, it's different surveys, but one of the surveys that we found is that nearly 30% of users actually expected to increase their usage of CBD to help them alleviate their stress, anxiety, and general wellness. And topical products, not just smoking or vaping. Also, retail sales in Canada actually expanded significantly. So June, July, and August actually had over $200 million in sales for cannabis in Canada. And they're expecting $2.8 billion a year for those sales for Canada. So the reason, more people are at home, so maybe they're more comfortable. There might be people doing cannabis right now while they're watching their update, who knows? Because they're at home and feeling more comfortable and have the opportunity because they're not in their offices or at work. Also, less people are purchasing cannabis illegally because of discomfort, perhaps meeting up with their illegal source, and so that's slightly getting better, where more legal cannabis is being purchased than illegal. And then also just a better experience. So when it first launched, there were actually very few locations, like for instance in Ontario, I believe they just added 40 more retail stores, I believe, in Ontario. I heard 4 stores open in Langley with people lined up, out the door. So there's a lot more opportunity now to also buy, and so that is obviously one thing that would increase the numbers. And then the staff, the bud tenders, are becoming more knowledgeable because people are coming in and asking what actually they should use. And then it's a safe environment, and with the regulations, people are feeling these products are safe to use. So I did this slide last week, and I didn't know really which way to go. But anyway, so obviously, things have changed today with the Democrats being elected, supposedly, in the United States. The whole cannabis industry really has been on hold. There really has been a lot of business that has been waiting to see what's going to happen. And that includes Canadian companies. The big cannabis companies actually come from Canada, and they are waiting for the U.S. expansion, but that requires different regulations. And so Kamala Harris was actually one of the big sponsors of one of the biggest cannabis legalization bills in the MORE Act. So we will see how that now transpires. And there's actually 90 different bills waiting on Capitol Hill to actually go in front of Congress to be approved. So there's going to be a lot happening, particularly with the Democrats being more pro-cannabis. And everybody wants, a piece of it. It's a big business. But Canada itself will also see the effect. So one, obviously, a lot more competition, because if it is federally approved in the U.S., CBD products are way further ahead. They're branded products, and people are establishing their brands. But also the Canadian companies now will have opportunities to develop other products or licensed products in the United States that they could eventually actually bring to Canada as well. So the whole market, and we really see this in topical products too, because we have a number launched in the United States, but it takes longer to bring them into Canada, and this may change that whole mosaic. So that's it about cannabis, and I'm going to digress a little bit because of COVID, and because, interesting enough, a number of cannabis companies, including Ovation Science, had started looking for also other opportunities. And because our company has a polymer delivery system that goes into topical products, we decided to launch one of our products that has absolutely nothing to do with cannabis, called DermSafe. And DermSafe is actually a non-alcohol hand sanitizer, and you may have seen it when you came in. They're giving them out here at the conference. And if you're not at the conference, you'll probably get one in the mail. And so instead of alcohol, we use chlorhexidine glutamate, and we use our patented technology. And this product, DermSafe, is on the Health Canada's list of disinfectants and hand sanitizers accepted under COVID. We have 2 drug identification numbers. And it's very important with alcohol because it can tell you even here at this conference in the hotel, some of the wait staff, when we explain what we do, have come up to us the next day and said, look at my hands. I mean, I've been using something without alcohol, your product, and my contact dermatitis is literally going away. So it just is a different solution besides or a different alternative to alcohol for people that are looking for non-alcohol hand sanitizer. We have a number of testing that this product has undergone, and these are off-label claims, but we did do a human coronavirus, which is the surrogate for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and had a 99.9% kill. And we've tested other envelope viruses over a 4-hour period, because one of the other benefits, because of our technology, is the product actually stays on your hands and resists wash-off. So you have a 4-hour kill with DermSafe. It's available in Canada on Amazon. And if you have any questions or you're interested for your office, please let us know. And so I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about that as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Doreen. You can stay up here for questions if you like.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions in the audience today for Doreen?
No, so Health Canada has a list of hand sanitizers that they've approved that the general public can use to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, and so DermSafe is on that list. It's an alternative to alcohol because it has absolutely no alcohol in it, and the chlorhexidine has a lot of data about killing envelope viruses and even persistence and things like that as well. But the monograph, I obviously have to make that claim, it is not on our on the label on the product, but we have the independent testing to support it if anybody wants to see that.
Thank you. Any other questions about for Doreen? I think it's quite interesting, the differences between the THC and the cannabinoids. A lot of people associate the THC with cannabis, but what about the CBG? Like, what are some of the best topicals? Like, what evidence is there for some of the best topicals that contain CBG for skin conditions? Do you know of any of the particular products that actually have possibly an indication for any skin diseases?
So, as far as I'm aware of, there are no products that have an indication, because even in the United States, where it's deregulated, you actually cannot make any claims. CBG is, I may have seen 1 or 2 CBG topical products, but CBD just dominates the market.
I see.
For sure.
Because patients are often quite keen that their CBD is curing like many of the conditions that they have. And I don't really know where they're getting that evidence from, or why they're deciding to go out on a limb and make these purchases without a lot of evidence. But they seem to be very keen on trying these alternatives.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22 because there is so limited research, but it's also, the research is actually quite constrained because you can't ship things and everything else. And so that's just led the consumer, like I showed you those Google numbers, that they have to find their own evidence. And in Canada, where you can't put any information, I think it's going to be even more difficult.
But perhaps with new laws, maybe it'll make it easier to study for investigators?
Yes, for sure.
Should dermatologists start to sell this out of their office?
So in Canada, you need to be licensed to sell any cannabis product, including CBD. That was one of the regulations which we believed, had been told, that would have changed this past spring, where they would, Health Canada, the Cannabis Act would change and allow CBD products to actually be distributed in a different way versus in a licensed or a facility.
It would seem that needs to be revisited. If it's in a topical, that this is something that should be allowed more widespread.
Yes, absolutely.
Any final questions virtually or in audience? Dr. Gunther has a question. Dr. Gunther, just hold on. Dr. Gunther's just asking what the likelihood is of contact dermatitis to various cannabis-based products. And Dr. DeGans is going to be answering.
Yeah, so recently we've had a number of patients bring in their cannabis-containing products, and most of the contact dermatitis that I've seen has been to the vehicle. And the vehicle is often in a organic beeswax base, which is a company here in Vancouver that makes a product. And so the person's actually reacting to the propolis. Now I tried to contact that company and said, can you give me your individual ingredients so I can test to the cannabis itself? And they said no. And there's very few publications available because actually getting the cannabis to test people to is what the limitation is. Yes. But I'm ready when that act changes that some of these companies will give us small samples of each individual ingredient and we want to test. But most of the ones I've seen, which has been less than 10 in the last 2 years, have been to the organic beeswax in the product.
And it's really only in the last year, though, that they actually were legalized, topicals. So you also don't necessarily know where your patient's getting it from.
Any other final questions for Doreen? I don't see any. So Doreen, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I appreciate that.